Hello and welcome to this O365 webinar. We will be quickly touching the bases with regards to an O365 intranet portal for the Kagiso Media Group. On the screen at the moment you will notice the quick agenda that I've drawn up for the purposes of this webinar. So first of all, this will be an O365 site for each one of the Kagiso Media Group business units, and I'm going to just give you guys a quick intro now. So O365 sites all live in the cloud. It's living in Microsoft data centers, and these are all SharePoint Online, so no on-premise hardware or infrastructure. For the purposes of this exercise, I have pulled up one of my existing sites. So this will be the typical login procedure for any of your users within each one of the business units. Users will simply go to login.microsoftonline.com and then sign in with their specific email address related to that tenant. Okay, so here I am signed in on a O365 SharePoint Online site. This will be a landing page for each one of the business units. We will have a landing page with top navigation area to quickly navigate to the relevant areas of the site, a section for the site administration, and a context-sensitive left-hand menu here on the left-hand side. We also have some quick icons for the common areas within the portal. Each one of these navigate to a specific container, list or library within the site. So for each business unit we will need to obtain a logo, a color theme, a font theme, as well as the legal entity names, as well as some banner images. So for each site there will be a requirement for 5 images that can be used to cycle here as the banner for the site. Below that we have an area for company news and a event calendar. This company news will be articles that will be created within the organization, and everyone having access to the landing page will have access to these individual little news articles. And below that we'll have a footer area, again with a company logo and quick links for the legal entity name, contact details, a website link, a disclaimer link, and a terms and conditions link if applicable. Okay, so let's quickly drill into some of the features over here. Each site will have some or all of the following components: a section for the company profile, a section for marketing, storyboards, products and catalogs, price lists and promotions, information around the organization, a section for all of the reusable forms, a section for reports, an area for the supply chain, for example, a training section, news and vacancies. And from the site administration area, we can manage our alerts, how we subscribe to emails and notifications, managing the permissions of the site, managing the recycle bin, viewing the popularity trends, as well as viewing the audit reports. Okay, so within SharePoint, each one of our containers are either a list or a library. We can see that here from the site contents area. So each one of these links or icons will follow through or navigate through to one of these areas. A space for announcements, for example, the brochures, the catalogs, discussion board, discussions, floor plans, whatever, depending on what the organization requirements are for specific containers on the site. So typically we would have a lot of document libraries. These libraries can contain documents, and these libraries will have components like version control, check-in and check-out control, the ability to share this content with somebody else outside or inside of the organization, the ability to quickly preview content directly by clicking on these ellipses next to an item. Sorry, it's just loading for a moment. There I can see it has loaded that document for me as a preview in the browser. I can see from here who it has been shared with. I can get a specific link to access this file or share this file with other users in the organization. Open this item, share it, follow it, follow it to get updates in my newsfeed for this, and then of course additional information to download it, rename the item, delete it, copy it, view the version history, the properties of the item, or advance, looking at the compliance details, checking out the document, following it, or starting workflows on it. So using document libraries are very simple. I'm going to show you guys quickly how I will be using a document library to upload an item. So just using a normal Microsoft Windows Explorer window, I will click, drag, and drop my document in that area, and there I can see it's uploaded my file. I will do the same with multiple documents. Select 2 files over here, click, drag, and drop. And there it has uploaded my items for me. I immediately see when it was modified, who modified it, and any other statuses based on site columns that we define. Version history as well. If I overwrite one of those existing files, let's say I'm dragging and dropping sample document 1 again in here, the file with the name already exists. I'm going to replace it. It's overwritten my file for me. Here's my sample document. But I do have version history on all of these libraries, so I can see previous versions of that document, view it, restore it, or delete it. Permissions can be defined to who can see previous versions and manage previous versions. General users will always only see the latest version of the document, which in this case would be version number 2. Okay, so that's a brief little preview of document libraries. We also have the ability to create folders in these libraries. Folder. And now I have a folder within this document library. This folder can again have unique permissions. I could share this specifically with somebody inside or outside of the organization, rename, delete it, or view the compliance details, start a workflow, or connect to the OneDrive for Business sync client. You will notice that each one of these document libraries have a sync button. This allows me to synchronize a copy of this structure to my local machine for offline usage, and I can work in that using Microsoft Windows Explorer. So for example, if I just expand my section over here, then I can see is my Workwear Depot document library, and this is for the catalogs to my knowledge. So again, I can simply copy and paste items from my local machine directly into that library sync. So let's say I'm going to go and copy those 2 images over there, copy them, go back to my sync library in Windows Explorer, paste them over here. And if I then navigate to the catalogs area, I will see my files being synchronized in the back end. It'll take a moment for that sync to happen. And there I can see my files now sitting in SharePoint, although I added them in directly through Windows Explorer. The permissions based on these libraries and whether I can sync them or have read-write access to this is defined within SharePoint on each one of the areas. In other words, each one of these lists and libraries can have unique permissions to having groups having access to it, viewing it, read and writing, and approving content in those individual libraries. To view items, I simply click on the title of the file, and there it's opened my file for me. And I can also directly from here delete my items. It will move it to the site recycle bin. In the background, my sync will then automatically again remove these items. There we go. Let's remove those items. So that allows a seamless sync and a link between SharePoint libraries and my local machine. This allows me to work on my items offline, or just simply to assist with the onboarding of this web application. by getting users to use SharePoint through Windows Explorer as opposed to directly through the browser. Okay, so that in a nutshell is document libraries. I'm going to quickly touch on a list. So a list in a nutshell is anything that could be represented in a Microsoft Excel document. This could be columns and rows of data. So for example, let's take my news. So this is a list. This is not documents or articles. These are individual records. As you can see, I can select my individual records, and when I go into the edit list function, I get a pretty much a Excel kind of row data. And that would then create my new row in this SharePoint list. I can see my new item over there. And being the news article component, this would feed back to the landing page, so that I can see my news article over here. Obviously, because there was no image added, it has only added in the title and the body of my new article. The same applies to remove an item. I would simply navigate to that item, items, deleted. I have the ability to share it, attach a file to this, set up an alert, start a workflow, or if there was version history, view the version history around this. I'm just going to delete that again. Okay, so in a nutshell, SharePoint lists can contain Excel style data that allows multiple users working on those lists at the same time. This could be utilized for attendance registers, for ticketing systems, for requisitions, for basic help desk forms and applications. All of these items can live in an Excel list. Sorry, on the SharePoint list. And can be viewed as little snippets, articles, or the individual records. SharePoint Document Libraries also contains a unique feature called co-authoring. This allows multiple users to work on the same document at the same time. So for example, if I was to navigate to this document library over here, let me just remove my sample items here. Directly right in the browser, I can start by creating a new Excel workbook. And it would render this new document in the web browser, allowing multiple users to work on this document at the same time, co-authoring on content. This also means that my client machine does not even have to have Microsoft Office installed. I can use Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Visio, Publisher, those components all directly here within the browser. And most of my standard Excel features is available right here in the browser. And the moment I navigate away from the file, it will automatically save this for me, permission and access based. And there's my new document available. I can also have the feature called check in and check out control. So if I uniquely or if I exclusively want to work on this document without any interruptions, I can choose to check out this document, which is represented with that small green arrow. If I hover my mouse over it, will tell me it is currently checked out to that specific user, and only that user can work on that file while it's checked out. This allows for a user to check out a document, let's say over a weekend, work on that file over the weekend. Everyone else will see the latest or the last checked in version of the document, and when that user returns on Monday, he or she can simply come back to the document, check it back in, and now the latest version will automatically be available to everyone else within the organization that has access to this list or library. And again, from version history, I can see the iterations of these instances where the document was worked on, can review, restore, or delete previous versions of this item, and my comments are captured directly in the version history of this record. I also have the ability to sync this library with Microsoft Outlook. I can navigate to the relevant library that I want to have a view into directly from Microsoft Outlook. Click on the Connect to Outlook button, open the link, accept it in Microsoft Outlook. And there I can see my documents directly in Microsoft Outlook linked to the library in SharePoint. Okay, so that's in a nutshell document libraries and lists. Each one of these for this specific organization is really either a document library or a list where they can manage and maintain, track and monitor documents within the organization. For every item uploaded into the site, we also have a global search component that will crawl the contents of all of the content added to the SharePoint site. This not only means items added in by their document name or title, but also the contents of those items. So for example, I know somewhere here on the site is a floor plan for the Cape Town office. So I'm going to search for Cape Town. And then my search results are returned. And again, I can simply hover over items to get a preview of the item prior to opening it. I can also see over here, this document is called JWD Corporate Profile. However, there is no Cape Town anywhere in the title of this document. I can see that there was a snippet somewhere in the document that had the word Cape Town in it. So SharePoint will return the results for me by crawling the contents of documents. Okay, so moving forward, for each one of the Kagiso Media Group sites, we require at minimum the organization logo in a PNG format with a transparent background. not larger than 300 by 250 pixels. 5 images that we can use as banners with a minimum size of 1920 by 500 pixels. We would also need the corporate colors of the organization, the RGB or HTML color codes, for example, the gray over here, as well as the red that's being used for this specific site. We also would like to apply any global fonts for headings, titles, and navigation, as well as for body and text areas. We can use the built-in fonts in Microsoft SharePoint. However, if the organization would like to have their own custom items, please provide those font details. We also need at least 10 images with a size of 500 by 400 pixels to be used within the site. This could be logos, banners, flyers, a page insert, or thumbnail to provide some sort of content in the site. For example, to create some dummy news articles in the site with the ability to add in some images for those. Going forward, each business unit and department can then further receive team sites. These team sites will be specific to divisions or departments within the group, where users of those specific team sites will be the only people that have access to it, and they can manage working papers, documents, reports, their own calendars, their own events, their own discussions, tasks, and features directly within their team site. Also with the ability to add in SharePoint forms for general digitization of legacy documents into electronic forms. For example, a very basic example as a leave application form. As we started here, we defined the columns that we want users to fill in whenever they submit a leave application. And it is as simple as clicking on New Item. SharePoint renders the form for me in the browser. I can directly over here define a manager that needs to approve this leave application. I can provide motivational comments directly here in the form. I also have the ability to attach items to the specific record. May it be, in this case, a sick leave letter. If this was a requisition, I could be attaching the original order or an invoice. If this was an event, I could attach the agenda, the map to the location, any tickets, directly by using SharePoint forms. And then once submitted, I can see the items in this record format. I can see over here, Frank needs to approve this leave application for Kenwin, and a workflow will now kick off to notify Frank via an email that Kenwin has requested leave, and he can then approve or reject that leave. Once approved, Kenwin will get a notification back to indicate that her leave was approved, and HR will receive an email to update the leave register on their side or feed that into any external system. Okay, so that's this demo webinar in a nutshell for SharePoint Online using Office 365. Thank you. Bye-bye.